or analysts on the show. Tonight, our two guests are two fans, super fans, I might say, because I've attended sports functions with them all around the world. This later next month, late July, I will be in Toronto.
Nice.
With both of our guests tonight to check out the Blue Jays against the Angels.
Very good. Very nice.
So our first guest of the night is Marc Lewis, dad extraordinaire, lives in the DMV area, and he's just been anointed
as
the new NBA commissioner. Just for the show.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, when did this happen?
Well, he's dealing with a lot.
Okay.
We're going to bring him on in the next 10 seconds, but ratings were down this year for the NBA. Some of that is the hangover from the Hillary and Trump debacle.
Right.
Rest became a topic.
And I'm sorry, I think that people are also just bored with the sport. It just did not seem that exciting. Even for me, the non-sports guy, it was even less exciting than it normally is.
Yes.
It's like, why should I even bother watching any of this? If there's like three guys who I care about even once in a while viewing on TV, and they may not be there, it just wasn't exciting enough to even bother. So I think that might be a general consensus. So
all the analysts from TNT and ESPN talked about the rest topic. The playoffs itself have been lackluster. I think we've been waiting for the last 7 months for Warriors-Cavs.
We knew it was happening. Right?
It's going to happen in a few days. So I want to welcome on Marc Lewis. Marc, how you doing?
Good. Good evening. Glad to be back. How is everyone?
Oh, good, Marc. How are you? Thanks for joining us again.
I'm doing well. Glad to be back again, as I said before.
Perfect. So I'll let Rich is going to ask the first two questions of our newly minted commissioner, and we'll take it from there.
All right. Let's see, Mr. Commissioner.
Yes.
We've been waiting all season long for this, the trifecta trilogy. We're here. It's going to happen. What do we have to do to catch up with all the hype that's been surrounding all that's going on?
Probably go outside and shoot off fireworks on your own because, as you guys mentioned before, I was listening, obviously, and this has been a slow crawl since Game 7 last year, right? Everybody pretty much knew the outcome of what the finals were going to be, but in reality, it almost has to top everything that happened in last year's finals. I mean, but I don't see that happening. And when I say top, Draymond Green got ejected, right? Golden State had two key players down last year. Bogut, some would say not as key, but Draymond got ejected off of a controversial flagrant foul. For it to top last year's finals, I think he has to be either close to or get ejected again just to create some drama, right? I think this year a lot of folks are on the Golden State side in terms of are they going to win the finals this year, but I don't think Draymond's not getting ejected this year because he only has 2 technicals in the playoffs, and you need 7 to get ejected. Unless he does something totally outlandish, he'll be in every game this year, so there won't be any excuses for Cleveland. Not saying that they needed an excuse last year. And it also has to go to full 7-game scenario. The ratings were down, obviously, last year, I think, in part because of the hangover of people expecting the same result this year in the finals. It's going to have to go 7 games just to get people excited and more interested in last year. So I think those are the two main reasons. I don't think LeBron's getting ejected anytime soon. That won't happen. I don't think the ref or Mr. Silver would let that happen since I'm the commissioner this year. It definitely won't happen. So 7 games and Draymond to get ejected, which he won't, and That's the only way. That's the only way it'll happen. Close games and no blowouts. That's the only way possible.
All right. Well, then let's take that a step further, right? Since, again, as you've indicated, we've seen this coming. You know, this is 3 seasons now. It's Golden State. It's Cleveland. Walking through the rest of the leagues, basically. Do we have to put anything in place to stop these super teams from forming? You know, is it got to be contract deals changes or min-max deal changes? I mean, what do we do to keep this from becoming, you know, legacy almost? Just a couple of teams walking through year over year.
Well, you know, these supermax contracts that the NBA has just incurred for upcoming, it's effective July 1st, and so the supermax for 2017. So it'll be in play for a certain amount of players this year, and it basically says it rewards the teams that have original draftees who are their superstars. I.e., this year there's a few up for that, and that would be the Steph Currys, the Kawhi Leonards, the folks that have at least 8 to 9 years of tenure in the league, have never changed teams, and either has been like the player of the year the last couple of years, or the defensive player of the year in the previous year. So it's got to be your upper echelon talent that's never changed teams, basically your best player who you originally drafted. That'll at least, you know, put the kibosh on some of these, you know, this Kevin Durant situation where folks are just bolting from one team to another to eliminate the balance of power in the league. So I think what you'll have players thinking about, well, should I leave? But they have that incentive to stay with their original team and make upwards of, you know, $30 to $40 million more with their original team. That'll keep in place a lot of the talent, especially on some of these smaller market teams where folks are going to Golden State and so forth. We'll see how that plays out. What I don't think will happen, though, is a lot of the role players, since they are not necessarily, you have to be designated as that player at the end of the year. Some of the second, third-tier players, they may end up switching teams, and that may affect more of the balance of power throughout the NBA in the next few years. Because, again, that supermax deal is only designated for one specific player, and you'll have that'll create some flexibility for your second or third role player, if you will, switching teams beyond the league. But it definitely impacts more in a positive fashion those Steph Currys, those Kawhi Leonards, those Russell Westbrook type players who are up for it in the next few years.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Ted. Oh, never mind. All right, Manager Lewis, we got a question.
All right.
So now we're going to switch this up just a little bit here.
Okay.
Someone that has become near and dear to both Ted and I's hearts. Okay, you have the number 2 draft pick.
Okay.
A certain young man. Is up.
Number 2 draft pick. I wonder who you could be referring to.
A certain young man and his father happen to be up.
Oh, his father, huh? I have no idea who you're referring to. Can you give me one more hint? No. I think I know you're talking about it.
What do you do about Mr. Ball and his son, Mr. Ball?
Short of extraditing Ball to like Poland or something like that, where they have gag orders in effect. It's a tough one. I think, the good thing, or the potential good thing with the second pick in the league is it is going, right now, it looks like it's going to go to the Lakers, right? And we know a couple of months prior to this, Magic Johnson has now been appointed as all things Mr. All Things basketball when it comes to making decisions with the Lakers. He is a god in Los Angeles. He is a god with the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Magic's clouds hover over that city in in all things positive out there. And so Lavar Ball and his son, all of his sons, including Lonzo, they basically look up to Magic. I think if I'm the commissioner, I sit down with Magic and say, listen, Magic, and Jeannie Buss as well, because she's involved and they've been involved with the team for so long. They will definitely instill some type of verbiage within that contract. Because Lonzo, if he gets drafted by the Lakers, there's no doubt he'll sign.
Right.
There'll be some kind of verbiage where it'll be almost forbidden, if you will, for the senior Ball, Lavar Ball, to go to the media with certain comments and things. I know he's about his dollars and he's about his son making money and all that good stuff. But Magic has been through this ever since the day he got drafted by the Lakers. So he knows the ins and outs of the business. He'll know what to do to kind of preclude Mr. Ball himself from being a little too obnoxious with his words in the media and such. And that'll kind of allow his son to hopefully flourish within that organization. I'm rooting for for Lonzo. Mm-hmm. But they'll nip that in. Magic and that brain trust, they'll nip that in the bud, at least for the first 4 years of Lonzo's contract. And then if he lives up to any kind of expectations, if they re-sign him and they do have success, I think Magic, they'll take some pressure off Mr. Ball and some of the flexibility off of Mr. Ball. Well, he'll be able to speak a little bit more. But with success comes a lot of criticism.
Right.
And if they win, a lot of that criticism will be negated, which means he'll be able to run off at the mouth a little bit more. But we'll see. I think Magic has a handle on a lot of that out there. He has a tenor for Los Angeles and what Mr. Ball is doing out there. And I think the respect is mutual from a fan perspective, them growing up watching Magic where LaVar will watch his words. He'll be on his P's and Q's if his son gets signed, I think. I really do. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
But I really do.
Mark, quick question for you. Who are you pulling for in the NBA Finals? How many games? Who's your breakout star, and who's your potential sleeper?
This is a good one. I know this is the third year in a row these teams are playing. Ho-hum. I don't recall. I mean, I know this is the first time in history that three teams have met in the finals. I don't recall the disdain when the Celtics and the Lakers were making finals like these in the 80s, but I digress. I am actually rooting for Cleveland. There's something to be said for LeBron James breaking down all of the barriers and all of the naysayers in which he faced over the years. I know he did taking my talents to Miami, but he has proven that he is the singular best player in the world and most valuable, by the way. I don't know how he didn't get any votes a couple of weeks ago when I watched that on the NBA a couple of nights ago. But anyway, I'm rooting for him. I really do. I want him to get another feather in his cap, and only because I'm kind of against the whole three-point shot winning a championship phase. But here's the reality. Golden State has another player, an MVP caliber player, Kevin Durant. And I just, given Cleveland's defensive inefficiencies the last 3 to 4 months, I don't see them beating Golden State this year. Draymond's not getting ejected. They built up with size and toughness, i.e. Matt Barnes and JaVale McGee. Those guys are this era's Rick Mahorn, and pick any other center you want to pick in the 80s. That's not saying a lot for toughness and size, but it is what it is in this day and age. I would love it to go 7, and I would love for Cleveland to upset Golden State. But it's not going 7. It's going to go 6 games, and Golden State will come out on top this year.
Okay.
You've been demoted to general manager. So in this segment, you've been commissioner, president, and now general manager. You have one Supermax deal, and guess what? You have a choice of Durant gets it or Curry gets it. What's your answer?
Well, I'm going to be brief on this one. Steph Curry, great player, two-time MVP, but he's 6'3", and he literally had his life taken from him in last year's finals by a guy named Kyrie Irving. So, from that perspective, I mean, Kevin Durant can shoot just as good as Steph Curry. He's 9 inches taller with a 80-inch wingspan. He can play all the positions on the floor. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Kevin Durant is that guy. The only caveat I would add to that is I don't believe Kevin Durant is eligible for a Supermax deal because he's on a different team. He spent his first 8-9 years with Oklahoma City, which means he's not eligible the next couple of years. So by default, I would have to give it to Steph. But if I had a choice, all things being equal, it's Kevin Durant hands down. Kevin Durant is a year younger. He has a couple more years' experience because he came into the league earlier. But, I mean, Kevin Durant is, easily top 2 player in the league. Him and LeBron, period.
You've excelled as the de facto, Uber president at the NBA. I'm going to just throw you one question that's MLB related. And it's a safety. Everything that MLB talks about where, it's what used to be the national pastime. What's it going to take for the security netting to be installed at the field level section at every MLB venue? Like, does someone really have to die? How many times do we have to see someone being carried off in a stretcher?
Yes, that's exactly what is going to have happen. Either I have a running bet that Pete Rose will be in the Hall of Fame before these nets are installed in these stadiums. It's atrocious. I mean, MLB, baseball has considerably been slow to progress. And I'm not talking about, the All-Star game changes where after a couple of years ago, you remember Bud Selig throwing up his hands because both teams on the All-Star game used all their players and they ended a 7-7 tie. That is that is the ultimate indication of how unprogressive, if you will, baseball is. It's gotten a little bit better with the commissioner regime change from Selig to Rob Manfred. So I think he is looking into it a little bit more serious than in previous years. It's been a conversation for the last few years, serious conversation. But I'm with you. I seriously don't think someone will have to get either impaled by a bat, or unfortunately killed by a ball. For them, Japan does it routinely. All of the baseball stadiums in the Japan league, in the Japanese league, they have it without a problem, and they're fanatics about their baseball out there, and. I just don't understand why this movement hasn't come to fruition yet. But yeah, I don't see it happening. I really don't. Unfortunately, it's going to have to take some, poor fan to have to suffer at the hands of a ball or a broken bat. Because if you notice, the bats have been flying over the last 10, 15 years. The bats allegedly are inferior, and they've been breaking in high number. So, yeah, I don't see it happening until something happens, and that's kind of true to how baseball has moved in the last 15 years. Unfortunately, I would like it to happen before that. I just don't see it. I really don't.
Gotcha. Marc, definitely want to thank you for coming on, joining us for Fix My League, and we will see you. Well, I know specifically, I'll see you shortly in Canada later this summer.
Bart Scott, can't wait.
You got it.
It's been a pleasure, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, guys. Always
All right,
a pleasure.
Mark.
Thank you,
Mark.
Bye-bye.
Rich, I want to switch